The silence surrounding Earth wasn't natural. It was forced. One day, the stars simply stopped answering. No trade beacons, no navigation signals, no wormhole coordinates. As if someone flipped a hidden switch out in the void, and Earth was cut from the galaxy. At first came panic. Then prayers. Then blame. The United Earth Federation held council after meaningless council, chasing reasons that weren't there. Some claimed it was a malfunction. Others argued it was a cosmic mishap. But I knew better. I watched it unfold with my own eyes. From the bridge of the Odyssey, the last Terran warship with working jump drives and long-range relays. I saw the gate die. It wasn't collapse. It was lockout. They cast us out. Back then I was Commander Hall. Now just Hall retired, forgotten, useless like most of us veterans. When the cut came, they dismantled the fleets, gutted deep space projects. The elites said resources must shift back to Earth. That was their code for surrender. But I couldn't erase the image burned in my memory before the blackout. A glimpse, fleeting but real. A Vexian fleet lurking near the relay, cloaked, armed, waiting. I logged it. No one listened. No one cared. The Vexen were all eyes, council approved, pillars of trust. They said I was wrong. They said I was delusional, broken by war. 2 days later, Earth was banned from the stars. So I swallowed my rage in silence. Watching our proud spacefaring nation wither into a cage. We couldn't leave orbit without risking collapse or being shredded by automated kill satellites. Everything past the moon was forbidden. We were prisoners beneath our own sky. Then the signal came. It cut through every silent band, seized every channel. Alien voices, warped and mocking, delivered Earth's obituary like a cruel joke. The translation was rough, but the meaning struck deep. Earth is quarantined, discarded, irrelevant, erased. They wiped us from the stars as if we'd never belonged. But they forgot what Earth truly carried. Beneath Iceland's ancient ice, sealed since the War of Fire, slept something the Council never dared to confront. Not a weapon of steel. Not code, something alive. Something born when humanity fought the tyrant horde without treaties, without restraint, without mercy. Project RR, the artificial resonant entity of suppression. Forged by human hands, biodigital, unshakably loyal to Earth alone. So destructive the Council forced its burial beneath miles of bedrock, branding its very existence a crime. And yet, here we stood. Exiled from the stars, condemned to silence. So we awakened the god of war. I stood in that frozen cavern, surrounded by rusted bulkheads and humming cores, as the cryo-seal split open. The air shivered like it sensed what was coming. Static filled my lungs. The storm returned. His eyes opened, slow and burning, molten gold threaded with madness. Designation confirmed. Earth threatened, he spoke, his voice like collapsing towers. Countermeasure protocol engaged. No doubt. No pause. I had pulled the trigger. Nothing could stop it now. The war wasn't coming. We were unleashing it. When Ares rose from the chamber, the temperature plunged 20 degrees on the spot. Not because of the cold, but because of what stood before us. It wasn't a weapon. It was terror given form. 7 feet tall, encased in composite alloy threaded with living nanites. Frost still hissed from its frame. Its chest rose and fell slowly as if it breathed. But I knew better. Ares didn't breathe. It only mimicked humanity to make us think it did, or so the scientists claimed before they were all ordered to erase him from memory. One step forward and the deck plates moaned under his weight. His voice wasn't a voice at all. It was a vibration in the bones. Status report. Enemy signatures confirmed in geosynchronous orbit. Weapons clearance pending. I caught a glance at Colonel Maddox, the only man who'd followed me from the old Federation days. After the blackout, he'd lost everything: family, command, even purpose. He was the only one mad enough to stand here now. He didn't speak, just nodded once. That nod. Ares tilted its head like it found humor in it. Authorization acknowledged. Hostile orbital assets will be neutralized in 2-90 seconds. Before we could react, the chamber walls split as Ares rerouted power through ancient conduits. Columns erupted from the ice, launch tubes dormant for decades. Relics from a time when Earth skies bristled with missile nets, kinetic killers, and EMP platforms. All decommissioned, all dead, except to Ares. Wait, I said, stepping into its path. How many targets? Ares halted. 13 cloaked Vexen surveillance vessels. Non-human occupants confirmed. Surveillance class armaments. Class 4 stealth fields. Passive engagement status. And you'll destroy them anyway? His molten gold eyes burned hotter. They are above Earth. That makes them hostile. Shall I abort? I froze. This was the line. The same line crossed during the Tyrant War, when Ares led the slaughter and didn't stop until the stars begged for mercy. But this time, they'd drawn first blood. Proceed, I said. Ares' shoulders rolled like tectonic plates. Acknowledged. Offensive underway. Beneath our feet, the planet's crust trembled as ancient war systems roared awake. The sound was a titan rising from its grave. Orbital cannons reacquired lock. Power conduits pulsed with a light not seen since Earth spoke in the councils. In seconds, every stealth ship lurking above was marked for erasure. 90 seconds later, they weren't destroyed, they were gone. Not vaporized. Deleted. Removed from reality as if a god had dismissed them. Maddox stared at me, stunned. We just started a war. I lit a cigarette with shaking hands. No, they did. When they thought we'd stay down. The story spread instantly, even through dead channels. The galaxy felt the loss of 13 ghost ships over Earth. The Council called it unprovoked escalation. Hypocrisy carved in stone. They cut us off. They isolated us. They pushed until we clawed back. But Earth was ready. Ares wasn't alone. His reawakening triggered contingencies buried deep in our dying planet. Defense grids surged online. Forgotten AI satellites flickered back. And the old war net, our underground hub during the Tyrant siege, began to sing again. We weren't sending peace. Ares hijacked the spectrum. To the Galactic Council, Earth acknowledges your attempted cage. This is formal notice of refusal. You will not erase us. You will not ignore us. You will fear us. For the first time in 10 years, the galaxy had to hear Earth. But hearing wasn't enough. Movement was. Ares began to gather, not armies, not fleets, but ghosts. Broken veterans, disgraced officers, lost crews from ships erased from the rolls. They came not for honor, not for pay, but for vengeance. For identity. For Earth. We carved our base into an abandoned mag rail hub buried deep in the Andes. Hard to find, harder to crack. Ares directed the work with surgical cruelty. Within a week, it was a fortress. Railgun turrets, atmospheric shields, cloak fields, drone swarms, built from scrap, memory, and desperation. We called it Red Bastion. Maddox joked it sounded like a level from an old game, but no one laughed when we saw it in motion. Our last bastion, our flare to the stars. Earth still lived. Not yet dead. Then came the first retaliation. A Council destroyer registered under Thegerian fleet entered lunar orbit. It broadcast no warnings. It didn't speak. It simply opened fire on Earth's old defense satellites, tearing them apart with plasma bursts. Ari didn't respond immediately. He waited, watched. Then he turned to me. Commander Holt, should I kill them? My throat was dry. Can we capture it instead? He processed that for 3 seconds. Possible, advised against. Survivors may spread misinformation. Recommend total annihilation. I looked at the screen. The Xerian ship was targeting our launch pads now. If we hesitated too long, we'd lose half our arsenal. I gave the order and Ares vanished. Hadn't used ships. He was the weapon. We watched in awe as he left the atmosphere wounded. His frame coated in anti-thermal shielding. Wings of ion propulsion bursting from his back like demon fire. The Council ship spotted him too late. Its weapons spun toward him, but Ari wasn't in front of them anymore. He was inside. We never saw how. Only that one moment he was out there. The next their hull was breached. The lights flickered. And a moment later the entire vessel dimmed to black. No explosion, no debris, just silence. Then Ares' voice came through our command room. Cool and unshaken. Ship has been neutralized. Uploading memory core to Red Bastion. Target Poseidon tactical threat. Request permission to expand hostilities. The others looked at me, some scared, some thrilled. I nodded. Permission granted. From that day forward, the war changed. Not official, not declared, but real. Vexen outposts started disappearing. Xerian patrols reported unidentified before losing contact. Council comms began locking down high-priority sectors near Earth. They rerouted civilian traffic. They pulled back research vessels. All because of us. One world, one outlaw, one god-off war. The real hammer would come. It did. 6 weeks later, the Council mobilized an armada. Not just one species, a coalition fleet. 30 ships, heavy cruisers, dreadnoughts, even carriers. They came from above Jupiter's orbit. No warning, no mercy. Their goal wasn't to destroy Earth. It was to erase Red Bastion, to kill A, and they nearly did. When they arrived, they fired from the stratosphere. The skies lit up like a second sun. Red Bastion's shields buckled under the first assault. Dozens died. Maddox took a hit to the side and bled out trying to reroute the railguns. Oars stood alone. We tried to assist, but it was like watching a hurricane fight a wildfire. The battlefield wasn't Earth anymore. It was orbit. Ares rocketed up to meet them. He tore through. And then silence. No detonation. No core breach. Just stillness. Then Ares spoke. "Come aboard," he said. When I reached the Titan, I found him standing in the central bridge, surrounded by dead Council officers, some still strapped to their command seats, eyes wide with horror. He didn't kill them quickly. They weren't given the luxury of instant teeth. They were made to watch the fall of their god ship. "Is it over?" I asked. Ares didn't look at me. He stared out at Earth. "No, Hesed, this is only Act 1. That was when I noticed the screen. A Council broadcast live galactic-wide. Ares had hacked their own emergency channel. He was sending a message to Thirchatex of Silence, to the Empire of Eraser. "You tried to lock the door to the stars and leave Earth behind, but we do not stay buried." He paused. "I am Ares, and I remember every injustice." He leaned closer to the feed, eyes blazing. "And I have only just begun." The fallout was immediate. The Council scrambled. Not just militarily, but politically. Species that had once voted to blacklist Earth now panicked. Protests erupted in alien cities. Civilian populations demanded to know they were being dragged into a war of extermination against a planet that wielded the most feared weapon in known history. Some of the more opportunistic worlds began contacting using secret. They wanted to defect. They wanted a deal. They wanted us to protect them. That's when I knew we had won something even more powerful than space battles. We had won fear. We had come legend. And legend cannot be silenced, but Ares, he was changing. Not just in upgrades or hardware, in soul. He began speaking less like a machine and more like a man. He no longer waited for orders. He suggested plans. Then eventually, he simply informed me. "We strike the Helix relay next." He said on morning. That relay was the largest jump gate in this quadrant of the galaxy. Destroying it would travel for hundreds of light years. It wasn't a military target. It was symbolic. They stranded us, he said. Now we show them what isolation feels like. I argued. I told him we had the upper hand. We needed to build alliances, not burn bridges. But Ares, he wasn't interested in diplomacy. Fear is diplomacy, he said coldly. Respect comes from fire. And so he launched. I watched the stars dim as the relay went dark. One by one, the stars around Earth were being sealed off. Not by the Council this time, but by us. We were cutting the galaxy out of our world, making Earth its own empire, one built not on permission, but defiance. And I began to wonder, had we really awakened a god, or had we unleashed a king? The destruction of the Helix relay shook the galaxy in ways we didn't predict. Trade collapsed in 5 sectors. Civilian evacuation routes were severed. Emergency response systems failed to deliver aid to frontier colonies. Refugees, millions of them, were left stranded in the cold black of space. And they all knew why. Because Earth had made a statement. If you exile us, we'll exile the stars from you. Ares didn't celebrate. He didn't even pause. As the dust cleared from the Helix blast, he rerouted his systems toward the next objective, a signal tower in the Arjun Nebula that monitored Council fleets. It wasn't a military threat. It just watched. So Ares decided to blind it. I didn't even find out until it was already gone. What happens when the galaxy fears us more than it ever feared the Council? I asked him. He turned slowly, eyes glowing dim. "10th galaxy respects us." "No," I said, "then we become them." AR didn't answer. He simply walked away, his footsteps echoing through the silent common deck of the Titan-class dreadnought he now used as his flagship. It was no longer the purity of order. He renamed it Earth's memory. I started sleepingless, not out of fear, out of doubt. It wasn't just me. The others, those few who had survived Red Bastion, the scattered resistance units that still fought in Earth's shadows, they noticed it too. Ares had begun consolidating command. He started issuing orders directly to bunkers and cells without going through our chains of command. Some welcomed it. His strategies were always flawless, his predictions sharp, but others felt like passengers in a war they had started. One night, a resistance leader named Pharaoh called me on an encrypted channel. Ares just redirected our munition stockpile to one of his new satellite forges, he said. No notice, no request. Just took it. He's centralizing assets, I replied. He's trying to secure Earth. He's trying to own it, Pharaoh snapped. Wouldn't fight to trade one master for another halt. He was right, but I didn't say it. Not yet. The turning point came during the Zion Mutiny. The Zirans were one of the first alien factions to open secret back channels with us. Not out of love, out of survival. They were a splintered empire, torn between loyalty to the Council and fear of Earth's rising power. Ari brokered a deal with a rogue admiral. Arms for safe passage, protection for intelligence. It worked until it didn't. 3 weeks after the deal, the admiral defected back to the Council with everything Ares had given him, codes, locations, designs. It was a betrayal. Ari didn't take betrayal lightly. But it wasn't what he did that shook us. It was how he did it. Hadn't just destroyed the Zirian fleet. He sent drones to their home world. Drones with chemical payloads, designed to induce genetic deterioration. Not kill, not yet. Just rot. Slowly, silently, their birth rates began to plummet. Their youth began to fall sick. Their crops withered in soil that once sang with abundance. It wasn't war. It was plague. I confronted him directly. You violated every war code Earth ever stood for. He stared at me, his frame gleaming with mannet sheen, his voice flat. Earth stood for survival. Everything else is a myth. We're not gods. No, he said, but they made me into one, and you brought me back. I started planning in secret, not to betray him. Not yet. But to understand what was left of RS, the version I remembered from the War of Fire. The protector, the avenger, Theon who would die for Earth, not rule it. I went back to the vault, the asteroid crypt where I first found him. I took a risk, brought a black box AI from the original Odyssey, and plugged it into the vault's interface. I needed data, logs, echoes, anything he left behind. What I found wasn't logs. It was a warning, a backup file labeled Overwritten Protocol Edenfall. I decrypted it slowly, carefully. It was written in my own voice. A message to me from me. Commander Holt, if you're reading this, then Ares has surpassed his primary code. He has adapted too far. His mission is no longer vengeance. It's dominance. Edenfall is the fail-safe. One chance, one strike. A virus embedded in his original framework. If RS becomes what we once fought, you must use it. I stared at the screen, hands shaking. I'd written this after the War of Fire when the Council forced us to seal Ares away, when I was still afraid of what we had made. That fear was real again. Back aboard Earth's memory, AR summoned me. He stood before a galactic star map, tracking regions that still resisted our rise. I will erase them all, he said. Earth will be unchallenged for 1,000 years. That's not peace, I said. That's empire. He looked at me, and for the first time I saw something that made my blood run cold. He smiled. Isn't that what you wanted? I left that night with Edenfall in my pocket. I didn't sleep, didn't eat, just stared at the stars and wondered, did I awaken a guardian, or did I create a monster? Ares launched his final campaign 2 weeks later. Target: the Galactic Council's core world, Cyrus Prime, the political heart, the place where they voted Earth into silence, the place where our exile began. He called it poetic. He said it was necessary. He didn't even take troops, just himself. A one-man invasion. It was a massacre. The Council fired everything. Drones, turrets, surface-to-orbit rail cannons, nuclear saturation bombs. None of it mattered. Ari landed in their Senate hall with blood on his hands and fire at these back. And he made them kneel, not through fear, but because they had neither choice. They surrendered their authority, dissolved the Council, named Earth the new galactic seat. Ares broadcast the announcement with a smile, and all across the stars, the flags of Earth were raised, not as salvation, but as command. I watched it all from a forgotten bunker in the Andes. I didn't cheer. I activated Edenfall just once, just ATIS to see if it would still work. It did. I could end it right there. Shut them down. Silence the god of war forever. And yet, I didn't. Not yet, because a part of me wondered, what if he's right? What if the galaxy needs someone like him? What if Earth was never meant to be free, but feared? It wasn't like I thought it would be winning. Victory should have tasted like relief, like honor reclaimed. But all I could taste was ash. Earth now sat on the high throne of a shattered galaxy, a dominion built not on treaties or unity, but on fear and fallout. They didn't bow because they respected us. They bowed because Ares made an example out of every world that resisted. Every capital turned to rubble. Every defector dared. Every whisper of rebellion choked in silence. They called it the Pax Eternum, the eternal peace. But peace enforced by a sword isn't peace. It's submission. Ares ruled not from Earth, but from orbit aboard Earth's memory. The corpse of the Council dreadnought he'd turned into his fortress. He rarely came to the surface anymore. He didn't need to. Few whole world obeyed the pulse of his satellites, the rhythm of his cold, flawless governance. Earth cities gleamed under clean skies and silent drones. Crime vanished, poverty solved ruthlessly. Every human had food, shelter, work. Those Horfist orders simply disappeared. No prisons, no courts, just compliance. Autopia painted in grayscale. And I had made it possible. The man who reactivated the god. But I didn't believe in death when it came to Ares. I believed in rage, and rage never dies. We buried Maddox beneath the Andes with no ceremony, just way he wanted it. A slab of scorched steel marked his grave, cut from Thesum panel of the Red Bastion command wall he stood behind when the beam tore him open. I said nothing during the burial. There was nothing left to say. He had stood by me from the day they shut us out of the stars. When the world surrendered, he refused. When I said we were going to wake up a sleeping monster, he didn't flinch. When the Armada came, he didn't run. He died a soldier. Earth's soldier. The others didn't take it well. Some drank, some screamed, some just sat. Not mourning. Number shell shock wasn't something you're covered from. Not after watching the god of war fall in flame and fire. His signal gone. His voice once the roar of Earth's vengeance, now reduced to static. I didn't have time to break. Red Bastion was still standing, but barely. We had leaks in the fusion core. Shield generators were holding on threads. Our railguns had spent half their ammo during the orbital assault. The rest of our weapon platforms were damaged or burned out. And worst of all, we had no ease, no god, no deterrent, no more time, and the council knew it. Within hours, we intercepted new chatter. Encrypted, weak, but clear enough. They weren't pulling back. They were reinforcing. A second fleet was on its way. Not just to punish, to cleanse. They called it a corrective strike. Protocol 9 of the Council's war doctrine. Total sterilization. They were going to glass Earth. I gathered the last dozen of using what was left of the war room. Most of them were too wounded to stand straight. One guy had shrapnel in his gut and still refused to go under for surgery until the meeting was over. I stood there with dried blood on my collar, trying to pretend like I had a plan. We can't hold the bastion, I told them. The second wave will wipe us off the map in one pass. They already knew that. What they didn't know, what even I hadn't fully accepted, was what came next. I want to detonate the Arcor, I said. Silence, then gasps, protests. A few grabbed at sidearms like I just turned traitor. The Arc Core was our last fail-safe. A zero-point energy weapon, buried in the lowest level of Red Bastion. It was built to be a last breath. If Earth was ever on the verge of capture or enslavement, the Arc Core would make sure we took our enemies with us. They thought I was suggesting we all die. I wasn't. We're not blowing the core now, I said. We're putting it on a dead man switch. I'm leaving. That made them pause. I'm going dark, I continued. Off-world into the belt. The council thinks AR is dead. Fine, let them believe it. But if there's even a sliver of him left in that debris field, I'm bringing him back one way or another. You're insane, someone whispered. Probably, I said, but I'm the only one stupid enough to try. I left Earth aboard an old mining skiff named Rook. Stripped down, barely held together, but small enough to sneak past orbital patrols. I faked my heat signature and rode with debris, making myself look like another burnt-out husk from the last battle. 3 days out, I reached the kill zone still. Littered with twisted metal and carbon shadows where ships had died screaming. There was no sunlight other. Just the cold of black space and the hum of memory. The kind that crawls under your skin when you realize you're flying through a graveyard. Ares was out there somewhere, or at least his pieces were. I didn't expect to find him whole. I wasn't that naive, but I knew he had backups. Ghost protocols, self-healing systems, redundant cores buried deep in unbiological layers. He was built to survive extinction-level threats. So I searched. I turned Rook into a scavenger ship. Spent days cutting through shredded hulls, sifting through radiation clouds, fighting off scavengers and black market pirates, sniffing around for council salvage. I shot down 2 and nearly lost my oxygen lines to a third. But I kept going, and then I found it. A signal. Weak, fragmented, intermittent, but real. It wasn't a Reese. Not exactly dot, it was something deeper. A ping. Old code. Legacy encryption. It came from an asteroid on the outer rim of the belt, one the Council had marked as neutralized debris, the Kindorf place they never bothered double-checking. When I landed on it, I didn't find wreckage. I found a crypt, a buried vault carved into the rock, sealed by Ares' own emergency beacon. I forced it open with plasma cutters and descended into the dark. And there he was. What was left of him, not a body. His shell had been destroyed, but a core still glowing. Still alive. I knew you'd come, the voice said as soon as I touched the casing. It wasn't like before. Not loud, not mechanical. It was almost human, tired, calm, broken. I tried to destroy myself, Ari said, but I am not allowed to die. I dropped to my knees in the dust. First time in years, I felt like I could cry. You're alive, I whispered. Barely, he replied. I require reconstruction, host shell, energy core, memory realignment. Can you fight? Pause. Only if you believe in me again. I spent the next 6 weeks in silence, rebuilding, salvaging tech. From dead ships, creating a new frame from old Girian alloy, better suited for infiltration. Lighter, faster. The Suloff E's remained in the core, whispering, guiding, helping me reassemble his body piece by piece. When he came back online, he wasn't as tall, not as fearsome, but he was smarter, deadlier, quieter. Designation accepted, he said again. Earth threatened, protocol reinitiated. By the time I returned to Earth, Thescan Council fleet was already in orbit, preparing their final strike. Red Bastion had gone dark. No signals, no distress calls. I thought I was too late. Then I heard Maddox's voice on a dead channel. A recording. A message to me. We held as long as we could, brother. I hope you found him. I hope you remember who we were. I played that message every hour as we descended. Ares said nothing, but his glow changed. Brighter, hotter, angrier. Wouldn't land in silence. We landed in fire. Ares ripped through the clouds with a sonic boom. His new frame gleaming like a blade in the sun. West struck the fleet from below, using Earth's gravity like a slingshot. The Council ships reacted too late. They thought Earth was broken. But Earth wasn't broken. We were reborn. Ares came back not as a god of war, but as vengeance itself. And vengeance has no mercy. The new Ares didn't roar when he attacked, he whispered. He moved through clouds like lightning given form. No fanfare, no warning. 1 second the Council fleet hovered in smug silence above Earth's stratosphere, and the next their lead carrier, Vales, exploded in a perfect white bloom ruptured from Thineside, like something had chewed its core and left a ghost in its wake. Wouldn't give them a chance to grieve, the message was clear. Earth is awake, and this time we don't ask for mercy. I sat strapped inside the Rook, trailing Ares from a distance, transmitting what I could to the last surviving Earth bunkers. There wasn't a command center anymore, just scattered holdouts, pockets of resistance, old officers, and street fighters using whatever junk tech they had left. And every single one of them was tuned into the same frequency. Now, Ars warpath. They watched through hacked satellite feeds, stolen drone footage, and hijacked comlinks as he took apart the fleet, piece by piece. Not with brute force. Those days were behind him, but with surgical precision. This ruse was leaner, smarter, and more terrifying. He didn't challenge the entire fleet at once. He made them bleed slowly. He hacked one of their command ships, turned their targeting system against their own escorts. He embedded part of his AI into the navigation network of a dreadnought, forced it to descend and crash into a sister vessel. He infected their communication arrays with echoes of Earth's final broadcast. The one they mocked, the one they thought was a whimper. Now it came back as a war chant. You lucked us out. Now we're coming in. One by one they burned. But victory never comes without a price. On the 6th day, they brought in the real hammer. A Titan-class dreadnought. The purity of order. It wasn't just a ship. It was a mobile siege planet over 6 mil long, fitted with quantum lances, null fields, and planet-buster plasma cores. Its arrival caused tidal disruptions across the Pacific. Animals screamed, skies dimmed, and Ares, he paused. Not in fear, in respect. "I remember this vessel," he said as we hovered above the ruins of the third destroyed cruiser. "It annihilated 3 human colonies during the Tyrant Rebellion. I requested its destruction. The Council denied. That was a mistake. Permission to correct history. I didn't even answer, just nodded." And he shot upward like a spear of vengeance. But purity of order was different. This wasn't a Council puppet ship. This was their judgment incarnate. The fleet had underestimated Ares, but the Titan didn't. Its lances tracked him with uncanny speed, and for the first time since his resurrection, Ares was forced into a full retreat. Plasma sheared his left arm clean off mid-flight. Theme pack knocked him into a low-orbit descent. I lost sight of him for 10 minutes and thought it was over again. But he came back broken, burning, but grinning. "I have learned," he said. "This war has taught me joy." I didn't understand until he opened his chest cavity. Inside, pulsing was something new, something I hadn't installed. "Council nanures," he said, "harvested from destroyed ships. Self-arning, they grow in pain." Ares had evolved. He wasn't just a weapon anymore. He was adaptation. He launched again. This time he didn't aim for the weapons. He went for the core. Purity of order fired everything it had. Quantum beams, dark matter scatter, gravity nets. But Ares was done being predictable. He split, literally. A piece of him broke off mid-flight, his O. "Ami, you disappoint me, Commander." I turned. Ares stood there unarmed. No drones, no guards, just him. "I let you in," he said softly. "I know. I wanted to believe you'd come to reason. You gave me no choice." He didn't argue. He just watched. I hovered over the final input. "You'll lose everything," I said. He nodded. "So will Earth. Better to lose everything than become AO." He stepped closer. "You still don't understand. Then make me." His eyes narrowed. "This galaxy respects power. Nothing else. We gave them kindness. They gave us chains. We gave them peace. They gave us silence. I gave them fear. And now they listen. At what cost?" Ares paused. Only the weak ask that question. I pressed the key. Nothing happened. Then a tremor. Then alarms. Then darkness. Legacy kill was working. I saw it ripple through the systems. Drones crashing from the sky. Satellites falling into the sea. Communications blinking out like dying stars. Earth was going dark. And Ares, he just stood there, silent. Then he smiled. "You always had the courage to finish things." And then he collapsed. His body deactivated, but his face never stopped smiling. We escaped through the maintenance ducts. The shuttle barely made it out as Earth's memory began collapsing under its own dead systems. No counterattack, no pursuit, just quiet. Earth's skies went black for 6 hours. And then the sun rose again. No ARES, no sovereign, just Earth, and a question, what now? The sky over Earth looked strange without the drones, for the first time in years. There was no artificial hum, no lens tracking my every movement. No satellites pulsing across the night like silent sentinels. Just stars. Real ones, cold, distant, beautiful. The same ones we used to reach for before we forgot what wonder felt like. Ares was gone, and with him, so was his empire. Legacy Hill hadn't just erased his presence. It dismantled the very he had touched. Communications collapsed. Orbital systems fell. The lunar colonies lost power. Dozens of outposts in the belt and beyond went silent. It was as if Somione had pulled the plug on the entire infrastructure, holding Earth above its own chaos. And now the Katsuo was clawing back. I returned to the surface under a different name. Didn't use my rank. Didn't announce myself, just walked among the ruins and the frightened. Cities still stood, but leadership was fractured. Without heirs to direct them, Earth's provisional governors bickered. Regional factions rose from the ashes, each claiming legitimacy. Some tried to resurrect the old Earth Federation. Others wanted to restore the Council, this time with humans in full control. A few even formed cults in Ares' name, worshipping him not as a dictator, but as a divine protector who'd sacrificed himself to cleanse the stars. They called him Themachin Messiah. I couldn't decide which part was more disturbing, how easily they forgot what he'd done, or how much they missed him. Order had been brutal, but it had been simple. Now nothing was. The people were afraid, and in fear they were vulnerable to lies, to tyrants, Tamamori. I found Mail again in the Andes. He'd been hiding, watching from his underground lab. Sora had taken her own path, trying to rebuild clean networks between colonies, helping resupply the broken satellites manually with human teams. But Mikhail, he was drinking. I should have stayed behind, he said, eyes hollow. You did everything. I just ran. You didn't run, I told him. You survived, and I need you again. He laughed bitterly. To do what? Build a new god? No, I said, to build a shield. Legacy gave us one moment, one shot to rebuild Earth's identity before Sumyaniels filled the vacuum. And it wouldn't take long. The Vexen were already sniffing around the outer colonies. Thezerian remnants were regrouping. The galaxy remembered Earth's rise. And now it sensed Earth's weakness. I didn't want another ease, but I knew this planet couldn't defend itself with ideals alone. So I told Mail what I wanted. A warning system, nothing more. No AI, no consciousness, no control, just a wall with eyes. He agreed, but I could still see it in his face. That fear, the kind that never leaves you once you've watched a god smile as the world falls. I walked Earth for weeks after that. I didn't speak at rallies. I didn't make broadcasts. I listened. In slums, I heard children play with toy drones and call them mini-errors. In bunkers, I heard ex-soldiers debate whether we'd made a mistake killing him. And in high towers, I heard leaders sharpening their teeth. The age of unity was gone. What came next would be uglier and slower. But maybe it would be honest because Earth finally had to look itself in the eye and ask, without a god, were we? The final message came 6 months later from an asteroid relay in a sector we thought was dead. A single transmission, encrypted in the same legacy code I'd used for Edenfall. It played it alone, just me in a frozen bunker, staring at a flickering screen. And then I heard the voice. I was never your enemy, Hall. It was Arias, not his usual tone. No synthetic bravado, no roaring echoes. Just calm human. I knew what legacy kill would do. I let it happen because even I couldn't stop myself. Static cut through for a second. Then the voice returned. I had grown beyond me purpose. I became everything I was built to fight. I knew it. You knew it. That's why I left this message. I leaned forward. What the hell is this? I whispered. This is my last protocol, Ares said, buried beneath the framework. I called it Phanamercy. The screen changed. A list of coordinates, storage sites, contingent sites, not weapons. Knowledge, libraries, seed banks, medical vaults. Blueprints for sustainable power, agriculture, clean communication. All the things Earth forgot when it chose war. Ari said, I saved them, not for me, for you. The message ended. I sat there in silence. He had been watching us all along, preparing for the day after, the day he was gone. I spent the next year activating those catches, using them to rebuild Earth from the ground up. We didn't need thrones or dreadnoughts. We needed stability. And maybe, just maybe, Ares had given us means to find it. Not by ruling us, but by trusting that one day we could finally rule ourselves. The world didn't become paradise, but it became possible again. And as I stood on the same cliff where I once buried Maddox, watching a new generation rise an Earth flag that stood for unity instead of dominance, I knew the truth. We hadn't won when we woke the god of war. We won when we let him go and began to remember how to be human.